Namaste. I am Devat Maharaj and I would like to welcome you all to my YouTube channel called Brahma Gaje, a channel that is dedicated to philosophical discourse. Please do not forget to click on that like button and also that subscribe button. In this episode, I will be summarizing the day 3 of Shri Shiv Maha Puran Katha held here locally in Maryland at a temple called the Greater Baltimore Temple in Finksburg, Maryland. And the Katha was narrated by the High Priest of the temple, Acharya Shri Padmanabh Joshi. So this is the summary of day 3. Let's get started, shall we? So on this day, Panditji started with the idea that Linga, Shiva Linga, is pure energy. In the last episode, we talked about how Brahma and Vishnu had a big fight with each other in trying to decide who is greater. And Shiv appeared in form of a Jyotir Linga, an energy source which had no beginning, no end. Energy pillar, the pillar of energy that had no beginning and no end. And the continuation of that story in this episode, as I had discussed, that we'll talk about the meaning behind it, the symbolic meaning behind it. As we briefly discussed towards the end of the last episode, that Vishnu Bhagavan went towards the bottom of the energy pillar to find its origin, and Brahma went towards the up to find its end. Panditji here alluded to the fact that Rajogun, which Brahma represents, will never take the bottom position. It will always want to go up. That is the nature of Rajogun. A quaint observation here. So Brahmaji is going up, Vishnuji is going down. Vishnuji goes for thousands and millions of years, doesn't find the origin of that energy pillar, gives up and says, I cannot find it. And it's okay to give up sometimes in life. Your ego hurts when you give up. But that is the point. The truth remains and must remain constant. Just because you will be proven wrong or people will say something bad about you, you are often hesitant in committing, in surrendering, saying, hey, I don't know. If you don't know something, you don't know. That's okay. It's okay to say, I cannot do this. It is impossible. In this case, the task is impossible. There is no beginning or the origin of this pillar. But Brahmaji, as we learned, went up and couldn't find its end. So found a flower, Ketki flower, as we briefly discussed in the last episode, and told Ketki that I am the creator God, the Brahma. If I tell you, you will simply say yes. Ketki says, so be it. Vishnuji and Brahmaji met together, discussed their findings. Vishnuji, being honest, said, I could not find the source of this energy pillar. Brahmaji said, yeah, that's why, see, I'm greater than you. I did find the end. I did find the end to this energy source, and here, Ketki flower, didn't I? You witnessed it, right? Ketki said, yes. This was a lie. And Shankar Bhagavan appeared in his full form and scolded Brahmaji, said, you as the creator God should not be lying just so that you can prove that you are right, so that you can satisfy your ego. And tells Ketki flower, just because somebody is bullying you, in this case again, we often are victims. Kids often in school are victims of bullying. We are at workplace sometimes are victim of bullying. And sometimes we side with people just so that we can also simply sustain or get by. But to lie just to get by is also equally punishable. So Bhagwan Shankar chops off the head, the fifth head of Brahmaji. Thus Brahmaji only has 4 heads, and scolds him and says, you will never be worshipped because you are not truthful. Nobody will worship you. Yes, you can continue your duty, as the creator, because Brahmaji begged forgiveness at the end, and Shiv is, as always, very forgiving and says to Brahmaji, yes, okay, I forgive you and you'll be allowed to continue your duty of creation, but the punishment must remain, so that you learn the lesson here once and for all, that as the creator, as the source of the truth, you should not simply lie just because you could satisfy your ego. This shall be the punishment that will make you remembered. And tells Ketki flower that you will not be worshipped anywhere. In any puja, you will not be used. What is the point of having a flower if the flower cannot use itself, surrender itself to the deities? So Ketki said, I am just a little flower. I got scared. Yes, I should not have done it. Please forgive me. And Shankar Bhagwan forgives Ketki flower and says, okay, other devas may accept you. I will not. So it is forbidden, therefore, by tradition to put Ketki flower on Shiv Linga. Shiva said, I don't want it. You should respect that. And again, Ketki flower, therefore, is never being used in Shiv Puja. But Shiv is generous and said, you can use Ketki flower in the decorations around my temple. That is okay. Just not on the Linga Puja. The lesson behind this is that ego corrupts the minds of the biggest of the biggest. This is an example. Why would the creator God or the maintainer God here, the Brahma and Vishnu, all of a sudden develop ego to the point where they want to prove who is better than the other? This is a lesson for us, mere mortals. The idea that the ego can capture and corrupt your mind even if you are a God. So you have to be very watchful of that. If you are not constantly watching, gauging where you stand with your ego, and it happens on every daily actions. Whether you go to a supermarket and are talking to a counter person who is simply checking your stuff in, thinking that, hey, look, I am buying and that person is simply selling me, look, I am greater than that person. We get those feelings, even at the smaller level. Of course, at work, at schools, colleges, what have you, we develop that sense of ego, that sense of pride. And sometimes to prove ourselves, we will lie. We will take refuge in the wrong things just because we could prove ourselves. And also, after all, sometimes at work, the politics is such that you have to survive, of course. And for that, you will do whatever it takes, even if it's wrong. Or you see a powerful person, a president or a king or what have you, and just to please that person, you will do what is wrong, even if that hurts the nation that you are part of. In this case, Brahmaji directly is hurting, setting the wrong example for the entire creation, right at the very start. So the lesson here is that you have to surrender the ego. Shankar Bhagwan goes to Sri Hari and says, you did surrender your ego. You did successfully, correctly state that there is no origin to this pillar, because there is no. I have no origin and no end, says Shiva. I am all eternal Paratpar Brahma. I always existed, am here, and will always exist, and you too technically came from me, left and right. So Shiv says to Vishnuji that as a reward, you will be worshipped everywhere. People will do grand celebrations for you. Vaishnavas will treat you like anything else because you represent the truth. And Sattva Guna is what Sri Hari, Vishnu, represents. After all, the maintenance can only happen, the maintainability can only happen when you are stable. And Sri Hari provides that stability. Shiv says, I am immersed into everything. So why have ego? After all, I am the cause and effect. Poetry by Narsi Mehta, 15th century poet, comes into the mind that E nathi eklo vishwa thaki vegalo sarva vyapak che shakti jani. He is omnipresent indeed in such a way that the energy source, the energy is everywhere, immersed into every single thing. He is almighty and powerful. Ego ends with Shiva worship. Eventually, when you surrender to Shiv, your ego vanishes. And when your ego vanishes, all your troubles and worries also vanish, because really the cause, the culprit of everything is ego. We will learn a little bit later how Ravan, the greatest of all, just because of ego, lost everything. He was a great disciple of Shiv, but could not surrender properly. Then Panditji talked about how forgiveness is so essential to Shiv. He forgives you very easily. No matter what you do or what you have done, if you with your true heart and faith surrender to Lord Shiv, He will forgive you. In this case, this was a pretty dire, very bad karma by Lord Brahma. Being the creator, lying, not surrendering your ego, even having the ego in itself was wrong. But when he surrendered, came the forgiveness. But you do have to bear the consequences of your karma, which is why one head was leveled and the curse was given that you shall never be worshipped. So you still have to face your consequences, but sometimes that consequences is what will remind you of the action that you have taken. Again, a poetry by Yogeshwarji, Ambaji region, comes into the mind. And again, this is a poetry which is based on a celestial poet, a Gandharva, Pushpanant. This is a poetry from that Sanskrit into Gujarati in Shikharni Chand, which describes this so nicely, which is Bani Agni Stambha गिरीश रूप जारे धरीते बनी अग्नि स्तंभ गिरीश रूप जारे धरियुते मथ्या ब्रह्मा विष्णु उभयपण पामी नव शक्या पछी जारे श्रद्धा भगति उरधारी स्तुति करी बताव्यू ते रूप तुझ भगति ना निष्फल जति बताव्यू ते रूप तुझ भगति ना निष्फल जति. Eventually, when Brahma and Vishnu surrendered and you gave them, bestowed upon them your grace, which is a statement that worshipping you shall annihilate any pap karma that may have been conducted. Bani Agni Stambha. You became the pillar of light, came into the Ling form, the Jyotirling form, and Brahma and Vishnu could not comprehend you. Eventually they surrendered. Brahmaji also gave up his ego. Vishnuji also surrendered, and you appeared and rewarded them, showed them the path, and got rid of all the karma that they had done. So the bhakti, the faith, or having faith in you shall never go wrong, which is what the poetry here describes. Then Panditji talked about the Linga process in itself. The procedure or the tradition of having Ling at your home. It is said in Shiv Maha Puran that if you are having Ling at your home, it should not be bigger than 9 inches total, or equivalent of your thumb. About 9 inches or so, all the way here somewhere. That includes the base and the Ling. In the temple, it should be at least 12 fingers long, minimum. But that's in the temple. In the home, 9 inches or so. Rest is forbidden by tradition, meaning having a big Shivling at your home is, according to Vastu Shastra, also is considered a bad idea. Small. Now you will say, well, I have seen in some places where there are big mansions and they have big temples inside the home and they have big Shivlings and what have you. In older days, also, I remember going to Kumbhalgarh, and Maharaja Kumbh's palace had a Shivling that is 7 to 9 feet tall, really long, and Maharaja Kumbha himself was a very tall guy and he used to do worship there. Of course, his son, while he was worshipping one day, as the story goes or the folklore goes, chopped off his head and took the kingdom. Even though Maharaja Kumbh was a very powerful king, could defeat many enemies, he was annihilated. But this is not about superstition, about fear. That, hey, I'll have a big Shivling at home, now, God, what will happen? No. We just learn, if you have true faith in Shiv, you are forgiven with everything. Cultivating the true faith is the most essential thing. But this is about tradition and also about ego. Because I can, because I have a big home, because it looks pretty, look, people will come and see the Shivling and they'll say, oh wow, his home has such a big Shivling. That is not Shiv worshipping. Because surrendering your ego is the Shiv worshipping. Letting your ego completely vanish is Shiv worshipping. And also it's a convenience thing too. At home, we have so many things going on. Having a smaller Shivling, maintaining it, cleaning it, doing the proper puja on it is more convenient for practical reasons as well. So, just because you can, that's what's forbidden. Because that defeats the purpose of Shiv Puja in itself. When you do puja on Shivling, and I have mentioned this in the previous episodes, if you do it with utter dedication and concentration, you will feel the cosmic vibration and the energy in that meditative state. So for that, even a small Shivling is good enough. You don't need Shivling as tall as you or the entire room. That is the idea here. Again, this is not about fear or superstition. Even the story that I mentioned, some people say, well, because Maharaja Kumbha had such a big Shiv Ling in his home and he used to worship, he was killed by his son. No, he was killed by his son because his son was greedy and wanted power and killed a powerful king who used to protect the nation. Sometimes superstitions really drive us crazy, and don't be driven by that. This is about faith. This is about tradition. Traditionally, you should not keep it, says the Puran. It's a respect. Other thing, symbolically, philosophically, it's about ego. Surrender your ego. You don't need a big Shivling to worship. So Panditji talked about that as well. Then Panditji talked about again having the karma or doing the karma with proper faith, utter dedication, without attachment to the karma, which is what Shiv worship is all about. When you surrender your ego, the karma that you are doing is detached karma. You are doing it with concentration and faith in Shiv, and that is the right way to do it. Then Panditji talked about Narmadeshwar stone. The river Narmada has particular stone that you can use for Shiv worshipping using as ling is actually very auspicious. Narmadeshwar Shivling, usually they are stones this big, sometimes they are big too, even bigger, but for your home worshipping, smaller, no bigger than a thumb, it's good. And you can just take that, and they are already pratishthit, meaning they are qualified for Shiv worship, because Shiv had given the boon to river Narmada that the stones that come out of your river will be auspicious, and I will reside in them in cosmic energy form. Then Panditji again emphasized how Linga Puja is the best form of puja, because it is Murti Puja and also it is Puja of the Nirakara Brahma, meaning it is a worship of form and formlessness all together. We talked about it in a way that when you are putting jal on Shiv, the Shiv that you are putting on jal, the Linga that you are putting jal on, water on, you can see, feel, touch, clean form. But as you are doing it with the mindset that Shivling is after all representing the cosmic energy, the Jyotirling is what you are putting the water on, the Jyoti Swarup, the energy form, that becomes formless. So you are doing Nirakara Brahma and Sakara Brahma all together, which is what it is all about, the non-dualistic aspect, the form and the formlessness all combined. There is nothing left after that, which is what Shiv is. He is the Paratpar Brahma, he is the eternal Brahma, he is everything and all. And you are not different from him. You are part of the same cosmic energy, and you shall attain it if you try Linga worshipping, Linga Puja. Bring a small ling. If you can find Narmadeshwar, even better, but otherwise it's about faith anyway. The aspect that he is omnipresent, that he is in everything, proves it. And we'll talk about in future episodes how Parthiv Ling is actually a even greater form of a ling. Parthiv Ling, one that you make from clay and then dissolve it once it's done. But ling can be in any form, and we will talk about that in later episodes. That is all I have. Om Namah Shivaya.